The other thing that we question, I'm not sure if we can do, because we couldn't, council couldn't project a one-time payment over multiple years, correct? Because they can't. You know what? We have our meeting. That's an right. Because then,
Gonna have to, we're getting rolling.
well, let's see what happens. Yeah. It's all right.
Okay, all right.
Right, no, yeah.
All right. We're gonna call the August 20 meeting of the County Council to order. Mr. McGee has the pledge. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ms. Zembo, would you call a roll?
Mr. Kuzic.
Present.
Mrs. Ferraro. Mr. Giovanni.
Here.
Mr. Heckman.
Here.
Mr. Lott.
Here.
Mr. McGee.
Here.
Mr. Myers.
Here.
Ms. Fargo Hefner. Here. Ms. Zirinsky. All present except Mrs. Ferraro.
Thank you. I believe Mrs. Ferraro, I know her pet was very, very ill, so that might be the reason. But, so we have a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, you got that. All in favor?
Aye.
Good. All right, next, we're going to do, I'm moving things around a little bit. We're going to have a presentation of proclamations. Ms. Fargo Hefner, you have the floor.
Do I present them from here?
Go down there.
Okay. Okay, can my special guest join me, please? I want to introduce Joanne Messlainer, Suzanne Bodai, the Honorable Sandra Volcano, the Honorable Pam Pearson, and whereas on August 18th, 1920, the 19th Amendment to the Constitution extended the vote to women, reading, "The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex, and Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. And whereas the bold, courageous, and powerful women who fought for over 70 years for the ratification of the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution on August 26, 1920, deserve special celebration, especially on the 100th anniversary of its ratification in 2020. And whereas the fact that today women are active in local, state, and national government and are running for office in unprecedented numbers reminds us that we all follow in the footsteps of these resolute American suffragists and enabling women to have their voices count at the voting booth and paving the way for greater female participation in all levels of government. And whereas the right to vote is the cornerstone of our democracy and the fundamental right upon which all our liberties rest. Whereas the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania was the 7th state to ratify the 19th Amendment on June 24, 1919, and in 1920, the League of Women Voters was founded by the merging of the National Council of Women Voters and the National American Woman Suffrage Association by the original suffragettes to whom we owe so much. Whereas the League of Women Voters has continued to promote the active and informed participation of citizens in government and to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and continues to facilitate debates and to provide candidates positions at all levels of government. Whereas the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, That's for the In 1936, all of the women democratic clubs and auxiliaries of Northampton County joined forces to form the Northampton County Council of Democratic Women. And in 1936, the Northampton County Council of Democratic Women was chartered as a member club of the Pennsylvania Federation of Democratic Women. 1927, the Pennsylvania Federation of Democratic Women was founded to promote the appointment and election of Democratic women to responsible positions within all branches of government, to encourage the advancement of women in both the public and private sectors, and to advocate the principles of the Democratic Party. Now, therefore, in honor to celebrate the 100th anniversary passage and ratification of the 19th Amendment, providing for women's suffrage to the Constitution of the United States, the County of Northampton recognizes the lengthy and ongoing efforts of the Pennsylvania Federation of Democratic Women, the Northampton County Council of Democratic Women, and the League of Women Voters for their tireless fight for full enfranchisement and equality for all American women. Congratulations. I'm proud to be proud of all of you. And Linda Wolstagel, who so graciously joined us. She is our regional director for the state federation. Thank you. Thank you for running.
Thank you so much. I just want to remind everybody, because of the suffragette, that our county was blessed to have Jeanette Regan as a representative, and she was the first woman senator in Pennsylvania. So we're very proud of that, to have that representation from Northampton County to put forth the first one.
Sorry, I was a little verklempt, but it felt good to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all for you.
Thank you, ladies.
Budget committee.
I don't know. I'm waiting for Ms. Vargo Hefner to come back in the room, and we'll proceed. Give her a minute.
There she is.
There she is. All right, what we're going to do now is, the county executive has requested an executive session regarding possible litigation on a matter, and the time is 6:39, I believe. So I have a motion to go into executive session. Motion, all right, no notes, we're just going in. One of them yelled second.
I never say anything wrong. I just say what everybody else has on their mind.
I miss that. You don't know what you miss until it's gone though, you know, like.
Yep. You don't even if you're 16 feet apart.
No, but I do it this.
Why don't I tell jokes? Because they crack each other up.
Oh my God, no, wait, is that a joke?
I said
That's
that
a joke.
A terrible joke.
No, I'm thinking that's a website for 8-year-olds.
It
I mean,
is.
you know, nothing objectionable about that joke.
We tested it Saturday.
Kids like that kind of
Did you
shit.
hear the rumor
Scheduled,
about
they already have cold meals for
Oh,
everybody, so they can, you know,
okay.
everybody's got to be locked in and stuff, right? So they're gonna keep it on for like 8 or 10 hours. Some crazy amount of time. And then that'll be it, then I'll just turn on once a month or whatever. It's a beast.
What's that?
Our new generator, the green
Got a
generator.
generator.
The
Oh,
green
I saw that
monster.
one, the one
Where
that
is
put
it?
all the wires.
Prison.
Oh,
When you
but
walk
like,
in, right
oh,
by-
it's outside, like in the yard? Oh,
we needed something, because when we lost power, we were running extension cords through the whole place.
okay.
That's not so.
Yeah, right.
In the
Do
jail.
it.
Yeah, that's totally.
That's the way we do it, yeah, because the doors don't open, you need keys for everything, they're all, you know, maglock doors. You gotta run around with keys and the whole place is a shit show.
Yeah.
Consider it on my list.
Oh, that was crazy. It
Oh,
looked like a bunker,
They're
kind
always
of like,
extension cords were everywhere.
it looked like a bunker in a third world country when
Not
you
the
walked
place you
into
want
it.
all those extension cords either.
No, they were like, it looked like you were walking through a cave, like when you walked in the light.
I've
Yeah, they had the whole
never
thing
been
going
in
The
over.
there.
lobby was so nice, but then you walk down this little hallway where they have all the voting records like lined up,
Uh-huh.
that they got the, what do they call that?
Those rolling shelves. Record shelves.
Rolodex or so they had
No,
those
there's
like
the name
on
and I
these-
can't remember either.
Yeah.
They had that same system in Commonwealth Court.
You go down the hallway and all of a sudden you walk into this other big room. It looked like it was like a reception area, conference room, old Gus's office. And then there were like rows of extension cords, like,
Yeah, like the old, like the construction site.
and then apparently a piece of glass, there was this huge chandelier in the other section of the building.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, well, it was in this, they encased it because I guess because of the moisture and everything, a piece of glass that was above the chandelier, I guess to give it like the sparkle effect, I don't know what it was for, but a piece of glass fell and like broke, and they were afraid more glass was gonna fall. So the great idea was to build this like wall around the chandelier. It was the weirdest, it was like a little room just for the chandelier, so that if any more glass fell, it wouldn't like break and bust.
It was a whole.
Oh my god, it was terrible. So,
Oh, yeah. Thank you again
I
for
did
sending
find
us
one of
the
the
list from the last meeting.
No problem.
Will there be a list of tonight's?
One of those,
grants, you know?
one of
I
the
don't think there's been any grants out today.
all the election
I think it
results
is,
that went back to like the
We'll find out.
I don't think it's any grants are on the agenda.
I won't get too close, but
So it's in the archive. But, yeah, it's just like sitting there.
I thought,
Where's the archive?
I thought tonight would be announced that the ones who were eligible were gonna get these.
Was it a couple years ago?
That's not on the agenda.
Yes,
Oh,
I think it's.
off by, it's off by the airport.
Yeah, it's right out, yeah, you
I can see if we don't have a list, but I can see if we can get one.
Yeah, I would, if they haven't told you yet, I bet there isn't one.
Yeah, but the
If there
archive,
is,
they
it'll
only
be great,
have
but we'll find out.
Okay.
there's not a lot of like, there's not a lot of access to.
How did they get that building?
So, yeah, so we used to.
How
We bought it.
the county
Oh, really?
We bought it from somebody.
So
Oh.
that actually has a.
haven't been here for 40.
No, that is the story. So at lunchtime, what I used to do is the archives, their offices used to be below my feet. Oh, grand jury notes, like the dates and all that.
They started jury trials for you?
There was the.
We have trials, but they're like remote and everything.
But not jury trials.
No, they didn't have a jury in here on, or they were gonna have a jury trial, but I think it's out.
Oh.
But no, so I started doing that, and then we were sort of mistreating, or I don't know, just charging us a ridiculous amount of money every time we would like
You
go
wanted
and
to get
access a
on that
record that we
jury,
had
yes.
lost.
Same.
So Stofa was like, what do we do? What do we do? So we finally found this common supply place in Northampton. So they built it, they built out this warehouse on Wheeler Drive
Okay.
that stores big control.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
they have like a loading dock there where they can bring stuff up. They have a nice screening room so people can come in and archive staff can grab our.
Really?
But most of our archives have been picked clean. There's not a lot of like. So so in the middle 1800s, early 1800s, middle 1800s, up until like the centennial, people really wanted signers of the Declaration of Independence signatures.
Oh, okay.
George Taylor was one of those signers, and he owned a lot of land because he was part of like the Durham Furnace and like all those companies that made cement, like cement in the valley. So since he owned a lot of property, and Lehigh and Northampton County was combined, when people were picking through the archives to form Lehigh County, it turns out
Oh.
Lehigh, they were taking his signature. And Pennsylvania Historical Museum Commission stepped in and took a lot of important documents that like, and that's where they're in the state archives project. That's why our patent commission is there.
Yeah, safe. How's the pool doing, sir?
Just there today. Warm.
Just
85
there today?
degrees.
Like, you did at your house, right?
It's
That's
85
interesting.
degrees.
It's at your house,
We
right?
built a new
Oh, I
jail.
have to do stuff with it every
They were
day, you
a
know?
lot
I
of
don't
people
get
really upset.
to swim. I don't get to swim like everybody else does.
Is it a lot of maintenance?
No, not really, not at all. I mean, to build a new jail. I usually put my scuba gear on and go dive that kind of that way.
Do you really?
I don't necessarily think.
Well, it's 10 feet deep.
I know you got that really deep area.
So I usually have my scuba gear on my back, you can see everything.
Nice and clean.
Nice and sparkly, but it's not now. I was gonna go in and dive around here.
Must be an interesting sight to see you in scuba gear vacuuming the pool. No, but I mean, I'm just imagining
I would imagine it's
you fully suited up with, you know,
Big tall wetsuit.
Yeah.
right?
See, maybe, but
and then some kind of pool
I see you
vacuum.
smiling.
Well, what it is it's you know, the vacuum.
Now, the question would be facts.
Yeah, that's
Why
what I
take
was
it all
thinking.
in the bowl?
Or-
Oh, really?
So I'm underwater.
Somebody,
and the hose
one
is
of my people
connected,
were like,
I'm just sweeping
I
around.
don't know if it was Tip
Oh, really? Like
or Beth, somebody who was
fluttering your
feet
feet
on
with
the
fins
thing.
on?
Yeah, and it's big enough, it's,
Holy
you know,
crap, I
20
smell
by
sea.
20 in the
Had
deep
fully-
end, so it's big.
never in a million years heard of that.
And I just swim around
It's so
back.
interesting, I've
across
seen
the
them like
show.
run all along, so.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, it doesn't register. Like
Well, the
Joanne-
first time I saw
So
it, I
usually
was
when you
like,
have to
oh,
have a
man, I was
t-shirt
like,
and shorts on,
holy crap,
because
see
it's
what we're
85
doing,
degrees.
let's act that up.
So I can just
Well,
take jump
Joanne
in.
didn't even try to practice.
Well, you don't,
She's
like,
gonna be like,
20 feet down
That's so
isn't
nuts.
enough,
Yeah.
like,
That's
with,
crazy.
like, who
I
is
know
that
you have to
guy?
be careful
Hi,
with the
Joanne.
dive, because the
So-
farther you go down, the more likely you are to get something. That's what
I can get that on central water.
You end up finding those counseling room, like,
If you go down
Yeah.
every
I have to come to everyone.
20, 30 feet, it's another atmosphere.
I mean, everybody, you knew what you were gonna get. Out of every one of us.
What?
Well, you keep on it.
I used to like it.
He said, if I asked him if he has to come and help us, he said, always on it.
He gave me counsel all the time, even when he didn't have to.
I
He
no
said,
doubt
"Listen,
about
why are you here? Go home with your kids. You don't need to be here." He
Shit.
loved it. He came, he
If I
came
worked at this
every
job
week.
and my kids were little, I might not go to either.
For 8 years I sent him messages, why are you here, man? They were little at the time, so I understand now, because now they're better, now they're grown.
Right, it's totally fine not to go home. That's what I'm saying, like, I totally get that.
But you, I don't think you need to counsel. We're very good. We always sit in the same seat, too.
I know, oh, that was was on the
prison board these days.
So,
Ruggiero, Jody,
yeah, I don't think the funding.
same thing, nobody's changed, Eddie Buswell is still on it. Same sort of group.
And that, and I have to pay like a little bit, quarter to high.
Eddie's Eddie.
She's hoping that
So
38 grand.
nobody signed in to talk?
There were
I don't know.
people, but I don't know.
Maybe if we have a project started, maybe they, I don't know. It's federal money. It's a little less flexible.
Federal money?
Yes, overall.
I like federal money.
I know, but
Maybe
it's,
some for my president.
I'm sorry.
Hey, if we get the 1.5 million, we're off.
RHUBH, man. Start it up.
We applied for a $500,000 matching grant.
Something housing unit, what's the?
RHUBH.
Okay, what's RH? Restricted housing unit,
Well, they were had some.
They help you.
Take care of health.
Oh.
But they're no longer there. So they wanna take it, see it. See it? It is the human implementation for this thing. Yeah, it's cool.
Are you
That's the
serious?
cool part. That's the
All
reason.
these little cells, they grow all the way down. They're all metal everywhere.
Wow.
And like if you're on the second tier, like a metal floor.
Yeah.
That was like my office.
But like if
Jane,
you,
I hate to
but
break
like
to you, when I worked at the labor board, the walls were metal.
Yeah.
It just.
This is the first one.
Well, it might do that, but it also, you can hang anything on the wall if you had magnets.
Right.
As they go up.
Yeah. It's the old rivets, like they put it in the hot and thing. That's the whole thing is built with rivets everywhere. It's just-
I couldn't even, I still not up there because it was. Oh.
But it's been there since. How long has that part been there? They figured that out. When they redid it, it was like 20 or 30 back part. That was a brand new.
because it's
state-of-the-art
steel,
stuff.
but it's steel, that's the reason. It's not like.
What type of reports? Well, all the other parts, 1891.
Well, it's stone, but it's still, it's
That's what
steel
we'll
in
take you
there.
under the basement where the ghosts are.
Well, that's pretty cool, actually.
I'm serious.
No, it's, the underground is pretty cool.
I've been in the Morgan Gray sale.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Okay,
Our new world will be better.
right.
Creepier.
She's gonna be from
Frank with the nice shiny legs. It'll be more creepy and shiny legs.
weird.
I'll never forget that for our
Okay.
Yeah, she did. She did.
It's like,
So, okay, so Jim's asked, she said, I had a question about.
Okay.
oh,
Yep.
yeah,
Right.
that's kind of.
And then I knew Jim would,
Extra
I
pay.
knew Jim would say.
Mark does all the plans.
call the council meeting back to session. It's 6:58, and we had an executive session regarding possible litigation. All right, next thing on our agenda is confirmation of appointments. Mr. McGee?
Okay. Resolved by Northampton County Council that the following individuals shall be confirmed in their reappointments as indicated hereafter. Area Agency on Aging Advisory Council, reappointments, Carol Durka, Bethlehem, term to expire July 2nd, 2022. Francis Green from Easton, Anne Marie Pinella, and Leechland Peak from Hellertown. In addition, an appointment to the Workforce Investment Workforce Board, Lehigh Valley, William Riley of Hellertown, term to expire June 30th, 2023. So moved.
Thank you. A discussion? Seeing none, call for the vote.
Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni,
Yes.
Mr. Heckman,
Yes.
Mr. Lott,
Yes.
Mr. Myers,
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner,
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky,
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you. Now we have courtesy of the floor. I do not have anyone signed up at this time for courtesy of the floor. However, if someone would like to come forward and address council, this would be your time. You may if you wish. Seeing no one, we will move on and go to county executive report. McClure, do you have a report?
I do, sir.
Sure.
You don't need to reference the charts that we're passing around, but I thought you'd like to see what you're getting with your testing site as part of your pandemic protection plan in our coordinated response with coordinated health. You know, in order to help rebuild our Northampton County economy, we've got to battle the virus, and we've got to get the virus under control. And we have acknowledged that. As a county government, we knew almost from the very beginning that we had interconnectivity with 3 of the world's hottest coronavirus spots. New York City, by virtue of our friends and neighbors commuting there to work, our proximity and a shared border with the state of New Jersey, and our interconnectivity with the greater Philadelphia area. Indeed, some of our first deaths in Northampton County, as sad as they were, those folks were exposed in New York and New Jersey. We had a tremendous impact from those hot spots. So we took action right away. You moved on the giving us the ability to move forward with emergency powers and take all the actions that we took. And so what does that look like today? Today we have been back to work in our buildings for over 3 months today. And to my knowledge, we have not had one employee diagnosed with COVID-19 caused by the coronavirus. And that's because of our aggressive masking policies, that's because of our temperature screening, and that's because of our new travel policy. Now, does that mean we won't have a positive diagnosis? Does that mean there wasn't a positive diagnosis out there somewhere? That could be, but it has not been brought to our attention. We are keeping our employees safe, and we are keeping the public that interacts with our employees safe. And we're not just doing it at our county points of contact. We're doing it for our citizens at large. And you first started doing it in our collaboration with Easton Hospital. And when that ended on June 26th, you had a 6% positivity rate of people who were showing up with symptoms for coronavirus, COVID-19. Now, in your collaboration with Coordinated Health Lehigh Valley Hospital, your positivity rate, the last I checked, was 3.2%. You are making a difference. And how you're making a difference in this fight is when people get tested, Lehigh Valley, in association with the Pennsylvania Department of Health, traces. They contact and they trace. So the folks who are exposed are quarantining, the folks they exposed are quarantining, and this is helping to bring down our positivity rate, 3 points. But the major factor in this, in my opinion, is the universal masking. I think the citizens of Northampton County have adapted. I know we all have personal, anecdotal experiences with people, but I think the citizens of Northampton County are doing an excellent job with their masking. And that really is the main driver of why this positivity number is coming down. And Northampton County and County Council, we really need to understand that it is so important that we put this CARES Act money toward this testing site. As you see, we've tested, this chart says 224, but we have tested an additional we're up to about 230, 231 people. We've recently informed the school districts that we have this site and that it's available to them so that we can help them go back to school with greater safety. This is your pandemic protection plan in action. Now, the question we get a lot, and I'm sure you get it too, how long is the test turnaround? Because in the last couple of weeks, what we've heard a lot about in the news is, well, these tests don't matter if we're not getting them back for 10 days. So I asked Mr. Weaver to get a report, and this is the report on the turnaround. The average collection to results is 73 hours, and the average time from receipt in the lab until results is 65 hours. That's pretty good. Most results have been received within 2 to 4 days, and over the last 10 days, a majority of results have been reported in 1 to 2 days. That's with universal masking and this type of turnaround in your testing and with tracing. This is how you keep a lid on the virus in Northampton County. Do I think we're out of the woods? I do not. Do I think this late fall and winter could be devastating if we don't wear our masks, if we don't continue to test and trace? I do. So I don't think it's time for us to let down. And as leaders who are out in the community being questioned by your constituents all the time, it's important to emphasize the importance of masks and the importance of testing. And if folks have a symptom, they should go to our site, because if we get the virus under control, we can get our economy rolling again. And Council, as part of your pandemic protection plan, you have funded to this point with grants up to $15,000, 302 businesses for a total of $3,990,243. These businesses have this money. This money is on your streets right now, helping these small businesses survive and thrive. Council, it's an amazing thing. You get control of the virus, and then you get that money out on the street to help those small businesses survive. I've heard from many of those small businesses this week, and they thank you for putting forward this pandemic protection plan. And they've told us that it's helping them survive. Many of them have said they thought they'd be closed soon, and this is going to give them a lifeline to move forward. You are helping real people and their employees right now. I suggest to you that we will have the money to fund an additional 358 businesses for a total of $4,758,397.91. We have evaluated the municipal requests. You are going to be getting that chart. We're going to ask the chairman if he'll put the municipal requests on the next Economic Development Committee meeting. We'll send the chart. You can disseminate it so council has plenty of time to digest it. But the bottom line is, with the fulfillment of the municipal requests, you will have that almost $5 million, and that will take you to a total of 660 businesses in Northampton County receiving a total of $8,748,640.91. I can't think of a better use of this CARES money. I can't think of a better use. you're saving your local economy. That's what you're doing here. And I am recommending to you tonight, we're going to ask the chairman again if we can bring an Appendix B to you for the consideration of the full council to approve the rest of those businesses so we can fund the remaining grants. I hope council will consider that and do that. Local, closer to home, I've reported that to our knowledge, we have no employees currently positive for COVID-19. To my knowledge, there are no inmates or corrections officers or support staff in Northampton County Prison who are positive for coronavirus. Great news. Unfortunately, with Chutes and Ladders, we are back to, where do you start in Chutes and Ladders, Councilwoman? I don't remember.
The beginning.
Yeah.
Well, wherever the slide takes you.
Yeah, where the slide takes us, well, the slide's taken us somewhere. Unfortunately, there's one positive at Graysdale.
Positive staff or?
A resident, thank you for having me point that out, a resident. She's doing fine right now, but that's where we're at with that. The good news is that we have not had a reportable COVID-19 related death at Graysdale since July 24th. So, huge progress is being made on this front. Again, we're all carrying around the sadness of the people that we've lost, and we're not, by talking about the progress we've made, we're never forgetting the folks who are gone. But the fact of the matter is we have made progress there, and we believe the progress that's made in the prison and in Graysdale is because of masks and testing. I think it's a universal theme, and I think if we continue to push that forward, we'll continue to have success with that. That concludes my report, sir.
Ms. Vargo Hefner.
Thank you, Mr. McClure, for your report. And I realize that you can't control the entire county. You can only control our own little Idaho. But news came to me that we're still considered a red county by some standards. And the data that was used was John Hopkins presents aggregate data every week. So I wonder where the other numbers are coming from. Who else is doing the test? Because obviously they're not just using our numbers. So could you clarify? And that's part A of the question. And part B is, what are we doing? What can we do to work collaboratively with some of these other entities to help them get some of the success that we're getting?
Well, almost all of your positives are coming out of the long-term care facilities, and they're being tested almost exclusively at the hospitals, probably either St. Luke's, Anderson, Fountain Hill, or at Muhlenberg.
Do they parcel out that data?
Yes.
Because again, Muhlenberg is not in our county.
Right.
So
Our residents go there, though.
So they chart it as a residency.
Yeah,
And only because, and I'll
I'd have to check that. I don't know who they credit that to.
Now, this gets updated weekly, because I've been because the thing is, I'll tell you the truth, I was looking to go into Vermont. Vermont will not let us in, because we're 27 cases over as a red, which again, we're very low, we're right next to the next level, but.
If you recall, there wasn't a great deal of attention paid to it at the time, but our color coding system was influenced more by more than just simply health metrics.
So I guess, again, the part B is anybody else working collaboratively to try to get the whole county united in squashing these cases, or it's just like, we'll just keep testing and whatever?
It's unfortunately, there's no national strategy, so it makes it very difficult for there to be a Commonwealth-wide strategy. And I think the Commonwealth has done the best it can under its circumstance, and as you pointed out, we can only take care of our little corner of the world, and that's what we're doing.
Mr. Block.
Yes, Mr. County Exec. What did Lehigh Valley Coordinated Health do to market this? I guess the question is, can we get them to market it a little bit more? I'm running into a lot of people and constituents, and they do not know about this. And, I know we're not going to reach everybody, but it just seems like I don't want to be the best kept secret. So Can we push them a little bit more? there a way we can get it out?
I think you're right. That's a great suggestion. We'll do that. I think part of what you're seeing, though, is less people are experiencing symptoms right now, which is great news, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Myers.
Mr. McCoy, this is a positive thing, because on my phone I received a message from a dear friend of mine who would like to acknowledge the fact that his mother is 100 years old, lives at Graysdale, got COVID-19, and survived.
God
And
bless
wants
her.
to thank the personnel at Graysdale for please taking care of her. And I, if you're listening, and I know you are, I have said it and given your message.
God bless her.
Ms. Zirinsky.
I received an email from somebody at Human Services, and they indicated that there will be some issues going forward because of children going to education in a hybrid model. And they're asking, once again, if telecommuting is possible, because they have children at home that they do not have care for, or they might be having some hybrid model. I know that my kids are going to school, or my son will be going to school 2 days a week. And then the other 3 days, 2 of those will be, I don't know, online, and then 1 is kind of up in the air.
I'm sure that with the folks who are represented by PSSU, a offshoot of SEIU, their labor representatives will be asking us that question over the bargaining table. I'm not inclined to do it, no.
Right.
You know, so, look, I have empathy for those folks, but I also have an obligation, a sworn obligation, to make sure that the vulnerable children who are in abusive homes are taken care of too. And so I'm going to err on the side of making sure the vulnerable children in the abusive homes, I mean, you heard yesterday from Julie, our placements have gone up, what, 100%?
Yes.
How much have they gone up, Sue? Was she-
I think you said, went from 200 to 300?
Yeah, so those kids that, I feel for our employees' kids, and they've got to do what they have to do about that. But my responsibility are the abused kids. My responsibility is to try and keep those kids out of placement and to try, because the easy thing's to put them in placement, right? I mean, we're trying to prevent that.
So
And we need to be at work to do that. And oh, by the way, been no positive coronavirus cases in the Human Services building, right? None. So
My
we've been there for
concern
3 months.
is that if these individuals don't have some sort of allowance, that they're going to have to leave their position, and that will be a mass exodus.
Well, it might be. I don't know.
I think one of the things, Mr. Myers and I had
Is that a statement that was made to you?
Not per
The
se.
sort of threat of mass exodus if I don't do this? Well, I have to put the abused children first, and that's what I'm going to do.
If I may, Ms. Zirinsky, yeah, I think he had mentioned earlier about our corner of the world. Part of that I would extend to say our corner of responsibility. Mr. Myers and I have conversations now and then as 2 old guys walking through the parking lot. And it's about the school districts sometimes too, and what school districts do. And I believe Mr. Myers would agree. I think this is one area, that's their ball yard. They have to step up and be responsible for their employees and their students.
Right.
I don't really know what more we I think, maybe I'm wrong, but I think we're probably stretching it pretty thin right now as a county, taking care of what we can take care of. I don't know what, I'm sorry, and maybe I'm
I
missing the
agree.
point. What did you want us, the county, to do? I didn't catch
It's not that I'm relaying the message
Oh,
that I received,
okay.
that somebody said they would like this voiced, and I understand that. I've also gotten another message that was voiced that talked about children who weren't being served that need to be served. So I understand there are 2 sides to this conundrum, and that we are all in sort of a catch-22 here. I myself am a parent, and I know that I'm going to struggle with trying to figure out how to negotiate work and balance it with my son's education. I want to make sure that we are serving the kids that are in need, though, and that somehow we find an impasse. It seems that we're at an impasse.
So if you're home helping your kids with Zoom school, how are you helping the abused kids from, being abused?
Well, one of the solutions they had mentioned was to work on Saturday and Sunday, as opposed to the days when they have to homeschool their
I think
kids.
that's overtime, but it's
I don't know
more.
if the
I'm not
contractual.
asking you to-
More to the point, I don't know if you're talking to represented folks or folks who are career service. To career service, they have supervisors, they make their way up to Ms. Wondolowski. If they're PSSU folks, they need to be working through their labor representatives, and it's even inappropriate for them to be doing what they're doing, in my opinion.
I'm done.
Okay,
I
Mr.
relayed the
Myers,
message
I
that
think
I
wanted
needed
to just comment, and before the executive, we let him go unless someone else says something.
Just to chime on, I hear what you're saying, but we're one of many large employers of people, and we're all in the same boat with this. And no matter who you are, you're gonna run into this problem. Along with that, we also are gonna have a problem inside where we have folks who are going to have to leave, because I thought at one point we had folks that were expecting and having children during this period, so they're going to be out for their 12 weeks. Am I correct with that?
Yeah.
So now we're dealing with another problem, and from the standpoint that we're just going to have to get in this boat and swim and see if we can do okay. I mean, I sympathize, but we cannot neglect what our responsibility is. We took an oath to protect and do what we got to do. We got to do what we got to do. And this is an unfortunate, unparalleled situation that we're in, and we're just gonna have to make our way through the water. I feel sorry for these folks, but in the same breath, I gotta also look after those who have their own issues that are working for us, and they're gonna have to leave and take care of their families. So, and I guess from my standpoint, I have a personal stake in this, and I would like to make sure that we are covered.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I guess these are the caseworkers and the supervisors from Human Services who say that they're not eligible for childcare leave under the CARES Act.
They're not under the
So
CYF. The CYF folks are not.
Right.
And there's
so
a
that's
reason
one
for
of the-
that.
Because they have to meet these obligations with, I understand that.
Okay, are there any other questions for the county executive? And you are finished then, sir?
I am.
Okay, thank you. All right. All right, now we'll go to old business. I have had I understand there's a desire to take something off the table. Was there someone who wanted to untable an ordinance?
So moved.
Mr. Kusick, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to remove from the table the ordinance entitled, an ordinance providing for an amendment to the Northampton County Home Rule Charter, Section 807, job discrimination.
I need a second before we have any discussion whatsoever. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Myers seconds it. We can't discuss it unless it comes off the table. Ms. Zembo? Yeah, call the roll.
Mr. Kuzic?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Mr. Lott?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner?
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky?
No.
Mr. Giovanni?
Yes.
Passes by a vote of 7-1.
All right, the ordinance is off the table, and now we can have a discussion. Mr. Kusick, why don't you go ahead and start things off?
Sure. I'll just reiterate what I did last month. Earlier this year, back in June, there was a Supreme Court ruling that stated that you cannot discriminate when it comes to a job in regards to sexual orientation or sexual identity. My thoughts, and it came to my attention that the Northampton County Home Rule Charter does not include that. The Home Rule Charter, when it was passed, was based on the 1964 Civil Rights Act, and at that time, this was not included. Since that time, I know that in Congress, there's been a move to add this using something called the Equality Act, which passed the House, but Mitch McConnell is sitting on it like he does a lot of other things. Since that has happened, we've implemented the policy here through regulation. And I feel that it's important that we add this to the Home Rule Charter and that we ask the voters to affirm what the Supreme Court did and put this in our home rule charter so that the charter aligns with the policy and the Supreme Court decision. And that's all I'm asking for, and I'd appreciate us taking this to the voters. And I do believe that this is something that in 2020 that they will support. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to get to everybody, but I know we had a lot of discussion about this when it was last time, so now it's off the table and we're discussing it. I saw Mr. Meyer's hand first, then I'm gonna go to Ms. Zirinsky, then I'm gonna go to Mr. Lott. And then I promise to turn to this side of the room.
Only amendment and change we need to do with this is this is dated for November 3rd of 2020. When we had the last discussion, it was supposed to go into the May 21 primary. Am I correct, Mr. Cusack, with that?
Yes, you are. It was amended prior to it being tabled, so the amendment would remain. This would be in the May primary election.
And along with that, I don't feel that there's a threat to anybody, and I said it before. We need to have faith in the people of Northampton County.
Are you finished?
I'm done, thank you.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Thank you. I just want to say I talked to many individuals about this. If I knew that this was going to be untabled, I would have had them present today. I talked to Corinne Goodwin from the PA Trans Equity Project. I also talked to Adrian Shankar from the Bradbury Sullivan LGBT Center. And I also talked to the Human Relations Commission. All three were in agreement that this is not advantageous to the LGBTQ community to have this up for a referendum, because if it falls, and it could, and there is no reason why the Supreme Court should be affirmed by individuals. It is the law of the land. And so I think, and I believe, that the voters don't get to have a second pass at what has already been deemed by the Supreme Court. In addition to that, Adrian Shankar gave me a draft ordinance that would be a solution to this issue. It is a solution that has already been brought up in Lehigh County. It does not require the affirmation by vote of the electorate, and it does guarantee exactly what you would like to have done. So I would like to ask that this order be this ordinance be tabled once again, and that this counter ordinance from Adrian Shankar be distributed. Sorry, I don't know why it's echoing, but I ask that it be distributed and that we wait on moving forward until we all have this ordinance.
All right, you're making a motion. Is there a second on putting this back on the table? Seeing none, we'll continue the debate. I guess we're going to have a vote on this one way or the other tonight. So I will go to Mr. Lott now. Mr. Lott, and we can dive into the discussion.
This question is, and it was answered before, but I just want to hear it again. I guess it's for our solicitor. If this would be voted down, the Supreme Court still stands. It doesn't eliminate that decision. And number two, as long as we have a county executive and a council that believes in this, we will still have it in our regulations. So I believe this is somewhat symbolic, just saying that the county thinks it's so, this is the way I'm reading. The county believes this is so important that we're going to put it in our home rule charter. If the voters vote it down, I don't believe it goes away. Is my question, does it go away?
If I could repeat myself from the prior meeting, the Supreme Court is the law of the land. I should say that Mr. Cusack contacted me, I'm not good at this, a couple of weeks ago, and I drafted this to be consistent with the Supreme Court opinion so that the Home Rule Charter reflects that decision.
All right. Wait, before I get back to you, anybody else want to comment on this? Margot Hefner.
You know, I voted yes for this last time. I plan to vote yes for this again. I believe that we have to listen to the members of the county, and I think to not have faith in them is underestimating them. I also reached out to several constituents. None of them belong to any kind of group or carry a banner, but they are members of the LGBTQ community and probably lifelong members, and all of them are probably older than the people that you mentioned. And I asked point blank, how would you feel if we added this to a referendum? And they said, fine. I said, how would you feel if they voted it down? Would it change your opinion? Would you feel disenfranchised? And they said, no, I know where I live. I've lived here a long time, and I understand that not everybody supports these kind of things, but they were joyous when they had the Supreme Court decision. And so I don't think it would hurt to do that here. And so I'm going to support it, and I'm going to trust the will of the people in this county. And I think it just behooves us to work harder to make sure that we get people out to support it.
Ms. Zirinsky.
I just think that what this is doing then is tantamount to taking a poll of how people feel and a temperature test in Northampton County about how people feel about this human rights issue. I don't think it changes at all the Supreme Court decision, but I've listened to these communities tell me how wrong this is to put up for a referendum. So I cannot, in good conscience, vote for this, especially when I've been given an alternative. And I wish that we would consider the alternative before moving forward on this. And I would like to invite Corinne and Adrian to come in and talk to you about why they think that this is wrong as spokespeople for their communities.
I'm sorry, Mr. Myers.
You know, I sympathize and hear what you're saying. But as a man said, who we buried a few weeks ago, sometimes you got to get in good trouble, and John Lewis, who shed blood for people to vote. We're at the same bridge, and I think we're past that. There's not a lot of, there is hate out there no matter where we go. And you can point to anywhere in this nation and you'll come up with one answer or another. But one thing, if I haven't said it before, I'll say it again about this community. This wonderful community that I've spent 66 years around. And I've been smacked, spit, punched, kicked. But you know what? I get back up and I keep going. This community is the most giving community I've ever been around. And we need to have faith in this community. And it's not going to change if it gets kicked out because it's the law of the land. Only thing we're trying to do is be in line with the law of the land. And that's why I think it's bipartisan that we just go along with this program. I respect what you have to say, but in this time, I respectfully disagree.
Can I?
Well, Mr. McGee,
she
you wanted to?
she wants to
No, go
respond.
ahead. Tara understands. You hadn't spoke yet, so go ahead.
This isn't really about the debate, it's more about the verbiage and the wording. And then it does, even though Mr. Myers pointed that out, and it does say November 3rd, so, I mean, is that going to, I mean, do we have to, I understand that, but are we going to readjust this then when we push it out onto the website?
Yeah, actually, it was amended at the last time
Okay.
it was introduced, but it just didn't make it into the.
Okay, so it will make it into the document. Great. Okay, that's all I had.
All right, so legally, when we look at this now, we're looking at the one that was amended as per our meeting. Okay. Ms. Zirinsky, go ahead.
I just want to say that no one ever has to vote on whether you can be black or white. But for us to say whether someone can vote on whether or not you could be subjected to this kind of discrimination is very different, because it is a referendum on being gay or being straight. And I don't think that that's right. I don't think that we should be putting people in the place where this could get voted down, because there is a possibility. And if there exists a possibility that it could happen, and there is an alternative, why not weigh the alternative before you vote on this? It seems like if you have these options before you, there's no reason to rush to this vote. If this isn't going to happen until May of 2021, why rush it now? Hold off on the vote. Look at the ordinance that Mr. Schenker had provided, and then make your decision. And then make a determination when you have all the information in front of you. That's all I'm asking.
Mr. Kusick.
Yeah, just real quickly. I understand what you're saying about having an ordinance, but then the charter would still be inconsistent. So this is about getting the charter consistent with the Supreme Court ruling. And like Mr. Myers, in 2020, I have faith in the voters of Northampton County that they will agree that job discrimination for gender identity or sexual orientation is wrong, and that the Supreme Court was correct in their decision. Thank you.
Yeah, let me just say, I reached out because when we tabled it, and I listened to what comments you made, and I reached out to some people I felt comfortable discussing this with. And as you can imagine, there's people I knew about, people say, I would say 5 people, so that's all, but 5 people. 2 I grew up with, and 3 I met as life went on through work. And I asked them, I said, what's your thoughts? And they're around my age, and they said, well, it was a very difficult time, but I mean, we are comfortable in where we're at today, regardless of what anybody says or doesn't say. I think that something what Mr. Meyer said, I've lived here most of my life, but I lived down around Philadelphia, and people would say, well, Lehigh Valley's a backwater area, you know, and I was in an urban environment. But some of the most closed-minded people I've met lived around Philadelphia. I was stunned. I think this valley's changed a great deal, and I would just say this. If this is put on the ballot, and if it's voted on, if it's voted down, I would be more than willing to sign on as a co-sponsor to a council ordinance or resolution saying that I disagree with the voters of the county, and I think it should be put into our law some way. The people I spoke to, one of them had mentioned what you said. No one should have to vote on anything. And I understand that. Unfortunately, that's why we have so much government and Supreme Court ultimately. I guess I don't see the harm in going to the people and saying, do you want to have this in our charter? Now, if they say yes, hooray for them. If they say no, I don't know what their motivation is. It may be hate, it may be something else. But then I would say, well, it's a good barometer of our people. I agree with Mr. Myers. I think the people I talk to are not activists, but they were activists in their own way, because if it weren't for the people today standing on their shoulders, you wouldn't have a lot of the activists of today. These are people who silently, in some ways and in their own ways, in their own very, very individualistic and very strong and brave ways, forged the path that many younger people today are taking forward, and that's how it should work. So I guess I don't see, I understand where you're coming from, but I don't have the same passion for the argument, because I have faith that this is going to pass, and I think it would be a tremendous statement on behalf of Northampton County. And that's my personal view. That's all.
If it passes, but
No, I hear what you're saying. Go ahead, Mr. McGee.
Well, just the last thing for me, I will be supporting this, and it's not, I am making it clear that it is not my intent to not support these groups. I also support these groups and their rights, as I support other groups and their rights. But specifically, this issue, these groups, I do support them and their rights. But a yes vote from me today on this, I want to be clear that it's not a way of saying that I do not support the groups, okay?
All right.
Thank you.
this is a
Go ahead, Ms.
tactic,
Zansky.
this is a tactic to undermine the Supreme Court ruling. letting the public affirm what is a Supreme Court ruling doesn't give you anything but a barometer about how people around here feel about this. It's not going to change anything. So why go through that and put people through that who are gay, who are trans? Why vote on this when you could pass an ordinance instead and achieve the same goals? If what you want to do is to affirm this Supreme Court order and make it so that we have this kind of equity here and justice for the LGBTQ community, why put it up for the possibility that it could fail?
Okay, you've made your point. Is there any other discussion on this at this point? If not, I will ask Ms. Zembo to call for the roll.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Mr. Lott.
Yes.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
No.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 7-1.
Now we'll move on to the next item. And it's a public hearing on the ordinance entitled, an ordinance authorizing preparation and submission of a declaration of taxing and related documentation for a portion of the lands of Erica L. Bush and for a portion of the lands owned by Arlene J. Kiefer Jr. and PPAC Gladstone Bank, co-trustees of the Francis E. Kiefer is that supposed to be Fiduciary? Oh, I never, interesting. Trust, and for a portion of the Department of Agriculture's conservation easement. Measures McGee and Kusick introduced this ordinance at the August 6, 2020 meeting. Are there any questions or comments from the public on this ordinance? Seeing none, discussion. Go ahead. Does anybody want to discuss this on council or anywhere from here? All right, well, call for the vote.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Lott.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you. Is there any other old business? Old business? Seeing none, we're going to go to new business. First is the introduction of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance amending the 2020 Northampton County Budget, Department of Community and Economic Development, Department of Fiscal Affairs, Administration, Office of District Attorney, Court Services, Court Administration, Department of Corrections, Department of Public Works, and Department of Human Services. Would someone sponsor this ordinance?
I will.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Second.
Second by Mr. Myers. There'll be a public hearing, debate, and possible vote at the September 3rd meeting. Next, an introduction of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance providing for the lease with the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission for Mincy Lake, Upper Mount Bethel Township, Pennsylvania. Would someone sponsor this? Oh, Ms. Zirinsky?
Second.
Second, Mr. Kusick.
No, Mr. Giovanni.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Giovanni, that is up in your
in his
neighborhood,
district.
so I apologize. District 4 is proudly represented.
Speak up then, Mr. James.
Yeah, you've heard people up here, we won't just yell. All right, so we have a sponsor and a second, and there will be a public hearing, debate, and possible vote will be held at the September 3rd, 2020 meeting. Next, introduction of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 617-2017, entitled, an ordinance providing for the conveyance of permanent and temporary easements owned by Northampton County, located in Lower Nazareth Township, to the Easton Suburban Water Authority to enable them to provide public water through its public water system. Would someone want to sponsor this? Ms. Zirinsky, second. Mr. McGee. Public hearing and debate and possible vote will be held at the September 3rd, 2020 meeting. Next, an introduction of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance amending ordinance number 648, 2018, entitled, an ordinance of Northampton County, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, providing for the adoption of certain procedures related to the solicitation and award of public contracts within Northampton County, providing for certification requirements for public contractors, providing for certification requirements for subcontractors to public contracts, providing for public contract review processes, repealing inconsistent ordinances or parts of ordinances, containing a savings clause, and providing for an effective date. Is someone sponsoring this? Ms. Margot Hefner?
Mr. Myers?
Sorry, what?
Mr. Myers.
And Mr. Myers is the second. There will be a public hearing, debate, and possible vote at the September 3rd, 2020 meeting. All right, next we have consideration of a resolution waiving appraisal for the Mincy Lake lease with Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission, and this, I believe, is Ms. Zirinsky's resolution. Ms. Zirinsky, would you introduce your resolution?
Sorry, my pages were stuck together.
It's all right. We're doing good here.
Now therefore, it is hereby resolved by the Northampton County Council that it does hereby concur with the county executive's request to waive the requirement for appraisals for the Mincy Lake lease agreement between Northampton County and the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission due to the provisions of the Northampton County Administrative Code, Section 13.14B 1 and 2, which read as follows. 1, the costs of the appraisals are likely to exceed the value of the properties or projects to which the appraisals pertain. And 2, the nature of the project requiring a purchase, sale, or lease of real estate does not justify the cost of appraisals or is otherwise deemed unnecessary.
All right, discussion. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, call for the vote.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Margot Hefner.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes,
Mr. Lot.
Yes.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 8-0.
thank you. Now we're going to go to consideration of personnel request resolutions. Department of Human Services, Children, Youth, and Families Division, attorney, legal assistant, administrative assistant, fiscal technician, clerk typist, social services aide, 2, county casework supervisor, county caseworker 2, mental health, early intervention and developmental programs division, fiscal assistant, clerk typist 2, data analyst, and I believe first up is the attorney, legal assistant, Mr. McGee. You want to introduce this?
It is hereby resolved that one full-time position of Attorney 2, pay grade HS 45B1A, salary $65,955, shall be created in the Department of Human Services, Children, Youth, and Family Division, effective August 20th, 2020. It is further resolved that one full-time position of Legal Assistant 2, pay grade PS 33-1A, salary of $37,246 shall be created in the Department of Human Services, Children, Youth, and Family Division, effective August 20th, 2020. So moved.
Thank you. Discussion? I know these were discussed at your.
This was discussed, all of these were discussed last night. at the,
Any more discussion? Seeing none,
Personnel.
call for the vote.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Lot.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 8-0.
All right, next we have Administrative Assistant 1, Fiscal Technician, Clerk Typist, Mr. McGee.
It is hereby resolved that one full-time position of Administrative Assistant 1, pay grade PS 33-1A, salary of $37,246 shall be created in the Department of Human Services, Children, Youth, and Family Division, effective August 20th, 2020. Further resolved that one full-time position of Fiscal Technician, pay grade PS 33-1A, salary $37,246 shall be created in the Department of Human Services, Children, Youth, and Family Division, effective August 20th, 2020. And it is further resolved that 3 full-time positions of Clerk Typist 2, pay grade PS 27-1A, salary $29,157, for a total of $87,471 shall be created in the Department of Human Services, Children, Youth, and Family Division, effective August 20th, 2020. So moved.
Thank you. Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Lot.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you. County Casework Supervisor, County Caseworker 2, Mr. McGee.
It is hereby resolved that one full-time position of Social Service Aide 2, pay grade PS 27-1A, salary of $29,157 shall be created in the Department of Human Services, Children, Youth, and Family Division, effective August 20th, 2020. So moved.
Are you reading the social services aid? Yes.
Yes.
I said,
I'm following in order here.
you
but-
are, I wasn't.
Okay.
You read the social services aid too, and that's what we're going to have introduced. That's what we're going to discuss if anyone cares to discuss it.
No, we were there.
Item 3.
Seeing none, call for the vote.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Lot.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 8-0.
Great. Now we'll go to County Casework Supervisor, County Caseworker 2. Mr. McGee, would you introduce that resolution?
It is hereby resolved that one full-time position of County Caseworker Supervisor, pay grade HS 38B1A, salary of $48,466 shall be created in the Department of Human Services, Children, Youth, Family Division, effective August 20th, 2020. It is further resolved that 5 full-time positions of County Caseworker 2, pay grade PS 35-1A, salary of $41,060, for a total of $205,300 shall be created in the Department of Human Services, Children, Youth, and Family Division, effective August 20th, 2020.
Thank you. Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Lot.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you. I believe you have one more, Mr.
Yes.
McGee. We have Mental Health, Early Intervention, and Developmental Programs Division, Fiscal Assistant, Clerk Typist 2, Data Analyst.
It is hereby resolved that one full-time position of fiscal assistant, pay grade PS 28-1A, salary $29,899 shall be eliminated, and one full-time position of clerk typist 2, pay grade PS 27-1A, salary of $29,157 shall be created in the Department of Human Services, Mental Health, Early Intervention, and Development Programs Division, effective August 20th, 2020. It is further resolved that one full-time position of data analyst 2, pay grade PS 29B-1A, salary of $30,641 shall be eliminated in the Department of Human Services Program Centralized Data Division, effective August 20th, 2020. So moved.
Thank you. Discussion?
Yeah, one's discussion. This is the last one, and I just want to say the department heads came up yesterday at the committee meeting and gave a very good justification for all these positions. So I'd like to thank them again.
Great. All right. Any further discussion? If not, we'll call for the vote.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Lot.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you. Next, we have consideration of a resolution authorizing the acceptance of contributions from home-delivered meal participants on behalf of the Area Agency on Aging. Ms. Hefner?
Whereas in accordance with the Aging Program Directive 15-03-02 from the Pennsylvania Department of Aging, the Department of Human Services Area Agency on Aging Division will be requesting contributions from home-delivered meal participants. Now therefore be it hereby resolved that Northampton County Council authorizes the Department of Human Services Area Agency on Aging Division to accept contributions from home-delivered meal participants.
Any discussion? I just want to say that, in an answer to the question that was posed to me, this is just the way for us to get any contributions. We are not in any way urging anyone who receives meals to have to pay for anything. If they want to give something, that's up to them. All right, any other discussion?
No, just to clarify that the reason that they did that was that every time someone does it, that it doesn't have to
Right.
be brought forward, so that it's more just a global
I just wanted
acceptance, yes.
that to be clear, because sometimes people watch and they misconstrue. All right. Any other discussion? If not, we'll call for the vote.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Lot.
Yes.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky?
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic?
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni?
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you. Next, we have consideration of a resolution setting the coroner's fee schedule. Ms. Vargo Hefner?
Now therefore it is resolved by the Northampton County Council that the coroner's fee schedule shall be amended to read as indicated hereafter, effective August 20th, 2020, and it's written below. And the proposed increases are in accordance with the newly passed legislation under PA Purden 16, 1252B, signed by Governor on October 24th, 2018. And these are the maximum amounts allowable by the state currently.
Oh, the coroner was here, discussed this yesterday. Any further discussion by council? If not, we'll call the roll.
Ms. Fargo Hefner?
Yes.
Mr. Lot?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yep.
Ms. Zirinsky?
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic?
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni?
Yes.
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 8-0.
Great. Next, we have consideration of a resolution of Northampton County Council for protecting the Bushkill Creek, its headwaters and tributaries. Ms. Zirinsky?
I'll start at the whereas, where it says the forks of the Delaware. How about that?
Yeah,
It's,
okay, yeah.
Sure. Everybody wants to go home tonight. Whereas the Forks of the Delaware chapter of Trout Unlimited, the Bushkill Stream Conservancy, and the Watershed Coalition of the Lehigh Valley agreed to form an advisory council with Northampton County, Northampton County Conservation District, Lehigh Valley Greenways Conservation Landscape, Lehigh Valley Planning Commission, Brookwood Group, and other stakeholders hereinafter referred to as the Advisory Council to protect, preserve, and restore the Bushkill Creek watershed. And whereas the purpose of this resolution is to form an advisory council to study, develop, and implement solutions to minimize and/or prevent dewatering events in the Bushkill Creek watershed, and whereas the advisory council intends to closely collaborate with the PADEP, other state and federal agencies, local and state legislators, Boozy Unisem, USA, regional organizations, and the surrounding municipalities, including but not limited to Tatamy Borough, Stockertown Borough, Upper Nazareth Township, Lower Nazareth Township, Borough of Nazareth, Palmer Township, Forks Township, and the City of Easton. And whereas the Advisory Council requests Northampton County to help facilitate the acquisition of all documents related to current quarry operations on the Bushkill Creek, including but not limited to the following: A, PADEP mining permit, B, PADEP water discharge permit, all karst geology and dye tracer studies, data from monitoring wells, pumping data, map of the zone of influence, current and future quarry operation closure plans. Now therefore be it resolved by Northampton County as follows. Northampton County Council fully supports the efforts to study, develop, and implement solutions to minimize and/or eliminate a future dewatering event at the Bushkill Creek, and fully supports the whereas clauses set forth above.
Tara, I believe there was a question about amending it, your resolution, a word that, because
Yes.
we'd have to do that and vote on it.
So in the third
We can
paragraph,
vote on that first.
right, in the third paragraph, where it says, whereas the Bushkill Creek is designated by the Pennsylvania DEP, there's a word in between downstream and Jacobsburg. The word is including, it needs to be struck, and for needs to be put in its place.
I thought it was both.
Sorry. Downstream of, sorry.
Of.
My bad.
You got
So
two letters,
close.
right?
Okay.
My bad.
What? Yeah, we need a second. Mr. Giovanni seconds it. And this was discussed, the individuals told us why. I mean, if there's no further discussion, we have to vote on the amendment to change the word. So, you proposed the change, and
And Mr. Giovanni
we're all set. I just want to be
seconded it,
sure
so
we're
good.
legal eagle. I call the vote.
Ms. Zirinsky?
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni?
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic?
Yes.
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Mr. Lot?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner?
Yes.
Passes by a vote of 8-0.
Great. Now we will look at the resolution as amended. Ms., if you want to say anything, Ms. Zirinsky, I know we had a
We
long
had an
discussion.
extensive conversation about this. I think that, I don't think there's anything else we can discuss with it. I think we kind of exhausted it. So I'm ready to take the vote. I don't know about you.
Going off of that statement, is there any other discussion? Seeing none, let's call for the vote.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Lot.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 8-0.
Okay. Now we'll go to consideration of Article 13 contract resolutions. We have WindGap Electric, electrical contractor, Bean Incorporated Contractors, General Construction, Vision Technologies, and Grace Industries. First up, we have WindGap Electrical Contractor and Bean Incorporated Contractors, General Construction. Ms. Fargo Hefner?
Whereas on July 16, 2020, the Northampton County Council received a request from the county executive for county council to adopt a resolution approving a 6-month contract totaling $92,688.22 with WindGap Electrical Construction, and Bean Inc. Contractors General Construction for the Washington Street Streetscape Project. Now therefore be it resolved that the Northampton County Council does hereby concur with the recommendation of the executive as set forth in the attached documentation to approve a contract with WindGap Electric and Bean Inc. Contractors for the Washington Street Streetscape Project.
Thank you. Discussion? None? Call for the vote.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Lot.
Yes.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 8-0.
All right, next we have Vision Technologies and Ms. Hefner.
Now therefore be it resolved, the Northampton County Council does hereby concur with the recommendation of the county executive approving a contract in the amount of $193,530.44 with Vision Technologies for computer equipment.
Discussion? Call for the vote.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Lot.
Yes.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yep.
Adopted by a vote of 8-0.
Good, and let me point out again, these are discussed at committee meetings, so if anybody's just tuning in tonight. Grace Industries Incorporated, Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Whereas on October 7, 2020, Northampton County Council received a request from County Executive for County Council to adopt a resolution approving a 1-year contract totaling $218,693.45 with Grace Industries, Inc. for the Norbath Trail Project Phase 2. We hereby concur with the recommendation as set forth in the attached documentation to approve contract as such. Thank you.
Mr. Myers.
Isn't this the one that, isn't this the one that we're sending back out for bid again?
We didn't say that we were
Wait.
going to yet. We're discussing it now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's up for discussion,
Okay.
so, Ms. Zirinsky.
In my experience on the Lehigh Northampton Airport Authority, we have dealt with Grace Industries, and I can say that there was significant disputes and significant problems with the quality and their performance, and I will not vote for Grace. I say that we should have this go back for another RFP, and we have another bidder.
Okay. Mr. Kusick.
Yeah, Mr. President, I was troubled that we only had one bid. Now, Mr. Cope did indicate that the prices were in line with what we've seen previously, but I think for the purpose of competitiveness, I would like to see additional bids, so I will not be supporting this recommendation.
All right, Ms. Hefner?
I'd like to ask Mr. Mealy a question, if I may,
Sure, discussion, you can come up if he wants to.
unless Mr. Dertinger, but you're both here. Have we dealt with this contractor before on any other projects that you're aware?
Not in my time with the county.
Okay.
I just want to reiterate that the disputes and the quality of the work was significant enough that I would not vote for this. I mean, there were serious problems.
The only reason I'm asking this question is because the scope of the projects are so very different, and that's why I'm asking if we had any
Right.
expertise with them, but we
Sure.
don't, so.
I would like to interject, and Mr. Emili can, because this is where we're having some issues, I think. I think there was a discussion maybe after the meeting, just sort of talking. Was this a contract that, or maybe it was part of the meeting, I'm sorry if I'm misstating that. It was part of the meeting, that this was broken up into 3 parts, this overall project.
Yes, that's correct.
Phases. And that the thought was the reason there was only 1 bid for this phase was because of the amount, that there just wasn't that many interested people. Had it been bid as a full, it may have generated more bids.
Potentially, I mean, at the time, we didn't know quite how much we could accomplish with the funds that we had available in our
Okay,
budget.
I just wanted to put some context in. I'm going to recognize you because I think that for the sake, my follow-up then would be, and I don't recall, is there a time frame on when this money Mr. Cope, I think, said 2 years, but then possibly an extension?
Because of the grant.
Because of the grant. Is there a time frame by when this must be put out to do?
Like Mr. Cope said, I believe it's a 2-year time frame.
Okay. I'm sorry, Mr. Lott, I saw that you wanted to.
Yeah, Mr. Cope stated that a few of the contractors said it was due to the RCO, but I would think that is not correct because the RCO would not cover this project at the value. Am I incorrect with that assumption? So I don't know why Mr. Cope would come back with that argument when this clearly doesn't qualify under the RCO anyway. So along with that, I work construction. I have heard very many stories, and the thing is, when a public entity gets a bad job by a contractor, they can't put it out there because they end up getting sued. So, I mean, it's no fault, but I have lived through the same experiences and have the same impression as Councilwoman had here. So I won't be supporting it. I mean, I think I got some bad information, quite frankly, why this wasn't bid by more. I think we need to do a better job reaching out to people that are interested in this, and I don't accept his reasoning we didn't get it. So I'd like to see it go back out to bid too.
Any further discussion by anyone on council? Oh,
I was just going to say, can I make a motion that this go out for bid again?
No, because I think we have to vote it down
We have to vote
first.
it down.
yeah, we have,
Oh, sorry.
what we have is, we have it on a resolution on the table.
Oh, we have to do that first. I got it.
Right now, I mean, not on the table. The resolution is here to vote. Whether we vote it down or to vote to table it, I think you either vote it up or vote it down.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Mr. President, I would suggest voting it down because that way that would require the rebid.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, I mean, I was just throwing that out there for people. Go ahead, Mr. McGee.
Sure, and question, how many more parts of this is left? 2?
Phase 1 was just completed. This is phase 2. There would be an additional 3rd phase. And we kept that separate because there is work specifically related to the 3 bridges that are on the Norbath Trail.
What's the value of the 3rd phase?
We don't know yet. We're still in the process of defining that scope in terms of what exactly needs to be done on the bridges. So it's a little premature to say at this point.
Okay, I just think that if by splitting it up, maybe that was a good idea and maybe it works out, but sometimes it doesn't make it as attractive for bidders, the mobilization and such, so.
He'd like to.
I have a
I'll let the
question.
executive
What are you
comment.
going to do if you get no bids?
Well, it's a good question.
What are you going to do?
Go ahead, Mr. Lott.
Mr. Love?
When we mobilize, I'm not trying to do your job, but it just makes sense. Whenever we did a project, the more we could lump together on that project, the more attractive it was for contractors to get. So every time you guys split this up into little pieces, in my opinion, it's less attractive to people to bid it. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Ms. Zirinsky?
I believe Mr. Cope had said that somebody else had bid on this, but they lost one of their employees and they were overworked or something. So there is somebody else to do this job, presumably, if they hire another entity.
All right, well, I mean, here's the thing, and I'm gonna let Mr. Jones, he wants to address something, and since.
Yeah.
I think that the one thing to remember here is, Mr. oh boy, am I really blanking now? That's my bad.
Really?
Sorry. The county executive did make the point that if they're the only one and we put it out again and no one does, I mean, I think a lot of questions were procurement. I mean, came out of what was our procurement system? Why did we only get one bid? Whether it was split up or not, I don't know. But I'll now say to Mr. Dertinger, go ahead with whatever you were going to say.
The only thing I would point out is that we have seen exactly the opposite, because we wind up with too many disciplines on a project that's not of a value that makes it worth having many subcontractors. As an example, we had no bidders after several rounds of putting out to bid the Wolf parking lot. And after breaking that job up into smaller pieces, because people didn't want to bid on a project that had landscaping and then had paving and then had stabilization of the embankment, even to that extent, what we just voted on moments ago, the crosswalk. The crosswalk was put out for multiple bids over many different times, and it wasn't until we broke it up into pieces, specifically, that we broke out the electrical and broke out the general contracting, and that's just a matter of putting in some sidewalk, some concrete, and a flashing beacon. People didn't bid on that. We went through that, I believe, 3 rounds before we negotiated with the contractors who did the Wolf parking. It wasn't a matter of the project wasn't big enough, because, you know, clearly the parking lot was a more than big enough project. We were having a hard time finding someone who wanted to pave and who could do soil stabilization and to do the demo and so on. That project went out many, many times and cost us great delays, to the extent that, you know, we have a parking lot that took about a year to complete by the time we finished, after we had our engineering done. So it's not always a matter of it being smaller. When we're talking about the trail here, we're talking about paving and doing some other ancillary work that was not in the interest of some of the paving contractors. And to the extent that if we have bridge work that we put in that, we now have to find someone who does paving and does bridge work at the same time, and that winds us, usually cuts down the number of people who respond to the bid.
All right, any further questions or discussion on this? Mr. Myers?
Just to make a statement on Mr. McClure's, what happens if we don't get anybody? Well, sometimes we just got to bite the bullet if we got somebody that's a piss poor quality of work. Because I believe what Mr. Lott said, we can't take it back, and we're the ones who got to eat it, and we're the ones who have to answer for it. Somebody's a piss poor job. Sometimes quality is more important than, you know, anything else at this point. So I think hearing that this company has had trouble, I feel a lot more comfortable if we had somebody else take a look at it. And if they don't, we'll just keep going until we get somebody that will.
If this gets voted down, I guess then the question would be to request procurement, somebody from procurement to come in, because, I mean, I do think we have to take into consideration that this was put out. It was one bid, and that was it, this company. For better or worse, it was one bid. If we put it out again in the same exact format, I don't know if we're going to get anything other than what we got this time. That means I don't know if it's worded the way, I mean, I personally, if we don't vote this through, I really think we need to hear from procurement in the sense that I'm listening to the concerns, and every council has every right to say, you know what, you have to vote on it, so you can vote yes or you can vote no. That's your job. But on the other hand, it's not like we're dividing, they picked 1 out of 3, and we're saying we don't think they're responsible. This is the only one that did it. So I think if we do vote it down, we're going to have to move as expeditiously as we can to find out, because I don't know if they'll be willing to do it again, and or if there's somebody out there, since up to this point, we did get the one. That's the only thing that troubles me. I don't know if I listen to Mr. Lott, I listen to Mr. McGee, they know a lot about construction, but my concern is I don't know if there's a follow-up plan. I always say, what about tomorrow? That's one of my old mottos, but go ahead, Mr. McGee.
You had a good, with the performance of the first contractor as well, correct?
Yes, they did a good job, and I mean, when they were awarded that contract, they were largely an unknown to us as well. I had never even heard of Floyd G. Hirsch. They did an excellent job. Grace Industries, it's a name I've heard of. They've done business in the Lehigh Valley for quite a long time. I haven't personally worked with them, can speak to the quality of their work, but it is a familiar name. I'll say that much.
Who is that?
And they didn't want to bid on it, the first bidder? The first award?
Yeah, so
awardee?
the contractor that performed phase one, that's the company that Mr. Cope had alluded to. I guess they had one of their project managers or office staff who normally handles their bidding left the company. So someone was kind of, wearing multiple hats, and it slipped through the cracks, and they weren't able to submit a bid in time.
But that doesn't mean that they wouldn't if they.
Maybe they'll come back through.
All right, is there any other discussion? I think we've beat this around a bit. If not, call for the roll.
Ms. Fargo Hefner,
No.
Ms. Zirinsky,
No.
Mr. Kuzic,
No.
Mr. Giovanni,
No.
Mr. Lot,
No.
Mr. McGee,
No.
Mr. Myers,
No.
Mr. Heckman.
No.
Bless you.
It is
Fails.
fails.
All right.
Couldn't think of the word.
I would ask, I'm going to request if the county executive would, please, could someone from procurement come? Because I think, could we do this this would be your committee, right, Mr.? But I'd like to, I think we should move at the next council meeting, if there's a resolution to this, I would like to have someone from procurement come, if not to the committee meeting, to council to go over
The process?
the process of this. I mean, I understand the process, but maybe they could come in and give us a little bit more illumination on the overall picture.
I think maybe we should just move it to my committee and we'll have a meeting for it, special meeting if we have to.
All right, would that, and you will contact the county executive?
Sure. We'll bring Catherine in, and she'll explain the process, and it's very well laid out in Article 13. And everybody should familiarize themselves before that, and I'm sure we'll be back here again with having this conversation.
Question while you're there. The performance bonds, what kind of performance bonds are required for these kind of projects? Do we know?
Mr. Barron stood up. He stood up, so I'm going to assume he wants to be recognized.
The performance bonds do depend on the size of the project. So certain companies are not able to get an insurance bond or not able to perform certain work to get the bond to do the
But
work.
in the contract documents that we have, is there a requirement for a performance bond
There
for this amount?
absolutely is, yes.
So they more than likely will be securing a performance bond, whoever gets the bid. And if Grace did get the bid, and if it was passed tonight, they would have had a performance bond.
Yes, they would have.
Okay, that the county could cash if the work wasn't performed properly.
Correct.
Okay, just a question.
Well, we
Performance
just
bond?
voted on it, so is it?
Mr. President, I asked Mr. McGee to explain the performance bond.
Oh, no, that's fine. I just wanted to say, I guess, as far as I'm concerned, then we're finished with this item for now, at least. And I guess our next question is there any other old business to discuss?
New business.
Seeing none, council committee reports? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Myers.
Committee reports, Personnel Committee met yesterday. We went over extensively all the new positions that the administration proposed, and we voted on them tonight. And that's about it
All right, very
for
good.
personnel.
Ms. Zirinsky.
We had an extensive Energy, Environment, and Land Use Committee meeting where we discussed sinkholes ad nauseum. It was very interesting.
It was a great discussion. I learned a lot.
I learned a lot about sinkholes.
Mr. Myers, did you have your hand up? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Lott, go ahead.
Okay. Yes, we had economic development, our subcommittee, I'll call it, met with, and reviewed the rest of the CARES Act funding, small business, that came in after we reviewed the first one. So we reviewed all of them in case money does free up, we're ready to go with it. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Myers?
Yes, we did have a capital projects meeting yesterday, and Mr. Emili updated us on all the bridge projects, and we're looking pretty good out there. Thank you, sir.
Hold on, you're going to reach out then maybe to Mr. Emili or Mr. Dertinger on this entire, this contract business, because,
Yes.
I mean, it's hanging out there now. And
Yes, we'll schedule something.
Thank you. Ms. Vargo
Okay,
Hefner.
Mr. Turner?
Finance Committee met yesterday. We reviewed everything that we discussed tonight. We were presented with the year-end report as well as quarter two. Quarter one will be available for our next meeting in September, and we'll review all those documents at that time.
Wonderful. All right. Any other committee reports? Okay, now we'll go to liaisons. Liaisons, I see Mr. Myers' hand is up.
Tuesday, I did a Zoom meeting with Lanta, and they are in the process of purchasing some land on 12th Street to move the transit vehicles out of Whitehall over to the other side in a garaged area. And to reminding us that there will be some contracts ending in 21 and 22, and I think that's with the Eastern Coach. That's all I have to say.
I just wanted to ask you, are you enjoying your interaction with the Lanta board since you're new to it?
They were very kind to me.
Okay, because I don't know how kind we're going to be down the road, but we'll see. All right. That's an aside. Anyway.
That message came across and what something I said to him.
I see. All right, Council Clerk report, you have a report for us? Oh, Mr. McGee. Oh, I'm sorry, by all means.
We had a Lehigh Valley Planning Commission executive meeting today, and they did come up with their 2021 budget. There was letters that were sent out to each administration, Lehigh and Northampton counties. They were in tune with our meeting last night, our committee meetings, and there was a couple of comments Director Bradley made concerning our discussion and our presentation of our, I call it our equity share, or that's what somebody else calls it, or that's what I think we all call it, our fair share of equity. And I think they took it a little, tough. There was about 3.5 minutes of response from Director Bradley. I did tell Director Bradley that it's an underlying issue of an equity issue here. We love our neighbors, Lehigh County, but we think we're not getting our equity here. And I left it at that. She did say that, I'm not going to say what she said. I'll let her say that. She wants to come to our meetings, and they want to put their side of the argument to the council, to the full council. I told her to get a hold of President Heckman and arrange that.
Can I ask you on that?
And one more thing, and so she also wants PennDOT to come, because they're in charge of this Lehigh Valley transportation.
So this was specifically with
From our meeting last night.
Discussion, not like to discuss discussions we've been having about the inequity in their budget at budget time versus like.
I think that's been going on for a long time. I think it just came to we had the presentation last night.
Yeah.
So they tuned in, they do tune in, and that's good they tune in.
Right.
We like that. And, I don't really think we made any comments about our staff or anything, so I'm not really sure about that, but I kind of got that vibe a little bit. But I think their staff does a good job. I think they're hardworking individuals. I think they put out some very nice product, but, I think it's an equity issue, at least coming from my perspective. I don't know what everybody else feels.
No, I understand it, because I
You're
mean, we
right.
have talked about overall inequity regarding the Planning Commission in general, and then we have the Transportation Committee and the projects specifically as part of that. And I know she'll probably be coming in to talk about her budget, which they all
Sure.
do.
But I also mentioned about the bipartisan agreements too, how the
Okay.
equity isn't
All
quite
right.
there either,
Well, they're
so.
welcome. Everybody's welcome here.
So.
They may not be happy, but they're certainly welcome. Okay. Anybody else? I don't want to miss anybody. All right, council clerk report. Thank you.
May I ask a question?
Oh, go ahead.
I would urge the council clerk to thank the U.S. Census Bureau for the lip balm that they've provided us for this meeting.
I think I
All right.
heard a little bird say that came through
Okay.
economic development.
Squire Spadoni, any?
Nothing.
Okay.
You didn't.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, seconded for adjourn. Did you get a second? Good. Woo.
Yeah.
How about it? Yeah, I hear you, buddy.